Welcome to my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on in and welcome to the conversation. You're watching the TriCast. I'm casting on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. So I guess it's a quadrast. Welcome to the show. If you are new to the conversation, we want to welcome you. I'm sure you're going to hear something that you want to like and share with someone else. So be sure to subscribe. So when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. If you are returning, we want to welcome you back to the conversation. Over the weekend, President Joe Biden was the commencement speaker at South Carolina State University at their graduation. And it might as well have been a lecture. It might as well have been a 2024 early campaign stop, because all he did was talk about voter suppression. But that's not what you talk about at commencement. That's supposed to be a time when you talk about the students. Somebody should have told him that. It wasn't about Joe Biden and the Democrats. It's supposed to be about the graduates. So that's what we're going to talk about, Joe Biden and HBCUs, right after this. Hi, I'm Steffanie Rivers, and I want justice for Breonna Taylor because the police officers involved showed reckless disregard for her life and the lives of her neighbors. Her. So you're saying she essentially died on the floor right there?
The second that she got shot, she was.
Family, did the city of Birmingham, did anybody say, did the church, did anybody say there's more to?
Hello, welcome to the conversation. I'm Steffanie Rivers. I was looking for, I need to put my earbuds in because I cannot hear, and I want to make sure that audio is good. So you're watching my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Welcome to the conversation. So we're talking about Joe Biden and his commencement speech at South Carolina State University in Orangeburg over the weekend. And he got stuck on voter suppression. But here's the thing, when it comes to voting, South Carolina already showed up and saved Joe Biden's 2020 campaign, which is why Biden is called president today, thanks to people in South Carolina and Black people all over the country. But when the pre-election was going through South Carolina, they stood up and saved him, saved his campaign. And so Joe Biden acknowledged that in his victory speech. So nobody in South Kakalaki needs to be lectured about their vote making a difference. We all in America might need a class right now on how Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, with one of the smallest populations in the country, West Virginia with one of the smallest areas or acreage in the country, Joe Manchin with one of the smallest electoral votes needed to vote for anything in the country, is stopping the passing of Biden's bill, when Biden claimed that he had all this negotiation skills and he had relationships across the Republicans and the Democrats, and that's turning out to be a lie, another lie. So maybe everybody needs a class on that, but South Carolinians don't need a class. They don't need you to remind them how important their vote is. What Black people in America need from Joe Biden, though, is tangible reciprocity. Give us something we can feel. You know that song, giving us something we can feel so that we know the love is real. We need something from you, Joe Biden, some tangible reciprocity. We know you thank us and you appreciate it and all of that, but we want more than that. How about an executive order to erase student loan debt? How about that? Now we know that recently Joe Biden had and has erased about $10,000 off of the student loan debt of people who have a disability in the United States. But there's some of us, the disability is paying back these student loans and not me. I already paid mine off. I'm talking about other people right now because I realize it's not all about me personally, but other people. So how about Joe Biden, you signed an executive order to erase student loan debt for graduating seniors at South Carolina State University and other HBCUs. Not just $10,000 off of other people who might need it, nothing against them, but everybody needs this. Since you said that was something that you wanted to do for people who have student loans, let's start with HBCUs. And since you are signing an executive order and you like doing that, how about finding these graduates a job? Maybe that's something tangible that I think they can appreciate. A job at the White House, maybe a job in the administration, maybe. I hear Vice President Kamala Harris has some openings on her staff. How about that, Kamala? So there's a lot of tangible reciprocity that needs to happen. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have some overdue bills that need to be paid. And I don't mean by handing out meaningless and toothless committee appointments. And when I say meaningless and toothless committee appointments, I call it that because you know how people get appointed to these positions and then they start bumping their gums about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it and who, what, why, when, and where. And when it's time for the committee to be over, then nothing has been produced. No tangible evidence of progress has been produced, and we want to stop that. So today, I found out earlier, it's like the only thing that changes when some of these people get these appointments is the amount of money in their bank account or the line that they get to add to their resume or a photo op. They get a new picture with the president. So we need to start holding people accountable when people who look like us are appointed to certain positions, and it's done in the name of see what I did for y'all, but y'all end up not doing anything for Black and brown people in America. And that leads me to Joe Biden's HBCU advisory board appointments. Now, the advisory board, the historically Black university, historically Black college and university advisory board, it was created because the president at that time, Jimmy Carter, wanted to have a group of people to help the federal government, the Department of Education, to make sure that they were paying attention to the needs of HBCUs and helping them to stay strong so that they can have competitive programs, so that they can keep their student body in the know that whatever was offered at HBCUs would help their students after graduation to be competitive in the workforce. And so that's what the advisory board was. That's why the advisory board was started. But I don't know if anything has changed in the past 30 years or so since the advisory board was was um, was created. Basically, more than 30 years, but 30, 40. If nothing has changed, what does it matter? So here's what I learned though. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and to subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. Now, Dr. Glenda Glover, she is the president of my alma mater. I am a graduate of Tennessee State University in Nashville. So Dr. Glover is she was appointed to the HBCU advisory board by Joe Biden. She, Dr. Glover, is the vice chair of the board. And I don't know what's on the HBCU committee agenda, but I think that they should be talking at least about one thing that TSU needs to have addressed, and that is the money, stolen money, misappropriated money, funds withheld from Tennessee State University by the state of Tennessee over the past 50 years. Now, if you haven't heard about this, I'm going to put a link in the chat that will help you. Just putting that in. So, just putting that in. Now, before I go ahead, let me explain to you a little bit about what I'm talking about. So, HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, they were created throughout the United States. There's maybe like 17 of them because they were created because when slavery was abolished and freed slaves wanted to attend college and get better educated, white people didn't want freed slaves, or generations after that, they didn't want them to be sitting in class next to white students to learn. They wanted for there to be separate but equal facilities. And so college essentially was started so that the certain white echelon of people, certain families, certain people in the country, in the United States, would have access to education and training to help them to run their families, companies, this, that, and the third. Okay, so that's why colleges and universities were started to begin with, but they wanted it to be only for elite people. So there are some people, white people, who were not elite enough in the eyes of those elite white people to go to the same college. So they said, we're going to set up some we're going to build you your own college over there, and we're going to set you up on certain programs over there, white people. And so those are called land grant universities. Now, the land was because they essentially stole it from Native Americans, and they had all this extra land, and they said, we're going to take this land, we're going to build y'all, the elite colleges are going to be here: Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, this, that, and the third, elite. So we're going to make another tier of colleges, and that would be the University of fill in the blank. So University of Tennessee, University of Arkansas, University of Missouri, those are the second tier of colleges that were created for white people that weren't elite enough for the other universities. And those white people said, well, we don't want to be in school with Black people. So then they created land grant universities for freed slaves and their generations of people, Black people. So those are called historically Black colleges and universities. That's how the formation of HBCUs came about. And so in exchange for us creating separate but equal facilities for HBCUs, the federal government said, we're going to give y'all money to set aside for your operating budget, and the state that you are in is they're going to give you matching funds. So the federal government gives money to HBCUs, and the state in which the college is gives money to the HBCU. So we're talking about the state of Tennessee providing matching funds that the federal government was supposed that gave to HBCUs. In this instance, I'm talking about Tennessee State University. So here's the thing. Over the past 50 years, though, it turns out the Tennessee State Legislature did not give the money to Tennessee State University that they said they would. And so here's where we are. According to people who have done the math, it amounts to about $500 million that the state of Tennessee owes Tennessee State University. That money was supposed to be going for infrastructure, to buildings, to create the dorms, the classrooms, keeping all the infrastructure together. It's supposed to go for creating programs, to pay top-notch professors and staff members and the sports team and the sports program. All these things are supposed to be paid for from money from the federal government and matching funds from the state government. And then after that is where alumni contributions and donations and all of that comes into play. So that's the way it's supposed to work. Now, the state of Tennessee had no problem sending money to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where I grew up in Knoxville. They ain't got no problem sending the white people their money. But when it came to sending the black kids, the black people their money, then they got a problem with that, even though that's what the agreement was. The agreement was that you would send your money, send the matching funds, because you, again, put us over there you didn't want us to be at your university. You wanted a separate but equal facility. But now when it comes to doing what you said you was going to do, state of Tennessee, then there was a problem. Now, that is what's going on. Well, why was the money not sent? Well, I can ask my 8-ball, or I can just come to my own educated conclusion that when white people tell you, when it has to do with money, you got to watch folk. Okay, you got to watch anybody, but especially when white people tell you that we promise you we're going to do this. Just stay on over there and wait for the check. And 50 years later, they still came up with, now I don't know why it took so long for somebody to realize the money was not being sent. And I've read articles and looked at documentaries that have shown as early as 30 years ago, it was something that was addressed by people in the know that were asking questions, but nothing was ever done about it. And here we are 50 years later and $500 million later, looking at why did the state of Tennessee not do what it said it was going to do. And it's not just about the state of Tennessee, it's about all HBCUs. So if you are a graduate of a HBCU, or you know somebody who is going to a HBCU, you might want to let them know about this and have them to do their own research in their state to find out, did your state legislature do what they were supposed to do for your favored HBCU? So back to my HBCU, Tennessee State University, the recent news is that Dr. Glover, the president of TSU, has been named the vice chair of President Joe Biden's HBCU advisory board. So we're not just going to applaud Dr. Glover for getting appointed to a board. We're going to applaud Dr. Glover for speaking up and speaking out on behalf of TSU to Biden, to the Department of Education, to the state of Tennessee legislatures, so TSU can get their money. Because here's why it matters. I mean, if I have to explain to you why $500 million matters, then you probably are watching the wrong blog, okay? Because it certainly does matter. Hold on, trying to change my caption. So, if you're just joining us, we are talking about Joe Biden and HBCUs and us needing the tangible reciprocity that that we are overdue. That's what we're talking about. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. And we'll be right back after this.
Recent events got you thinking about tightening up your gun skills? Do you have a gun but never took it to the gun range? Join the club. No, really. The Henry Johnson Gun Club of Dallas is hosting the first annual Precision Games Pistol and Rifle Competition, January 16th in Ferris, Texas. Register to win. Win to receive prizes and bragging rights. Go to the Henry Johnson Gun Club Facebook page for more info. Get ready, stay ready.
Hello, welcome back to the show. I'm Steffanie Rivers, and we're talking about Joe Biden and tangible reciprocity that is needed from the Biden administration. So recently I heard I read an article, heard a story about how Master P is thinking of removing his son, Hersey Miller, from Tennessee State University. Now, Master P's from Louisiana, entertainment mogul, and his son Hersey was or probably still is at this point a student at Tennessee State University, maybe going into the second season, or it might be the first season. I can't remember. I really don't keep up with the kids like that, but I do know his son is a basketball standout. So Master P and his son agreed that his son Hersey would enroll at Tennessee State University. And that had brought a lot of attention to TSU in Nashville, rightly so. And so the administration at TSU had done a lot to stay in the good graces of Master P, of course, because they wanted any money and attention that he could bring to TSU. And so they, in my opinion, did a little bit too much to keep Master P happy instead of calling him out on some stuff. But that's a whole nother story that I talked about in a previous video. So now we're fast forwarding. Hersey Miller is on the basketball team, standout, TSU. He was in a game recently and he got hurt during the game. So they had to pull him out of the game. And then apparently the trainers that they have on the attached to TSU and the basketball team, apparently those trainers misdiagnosed Hersey's injury, or didn't do all they could that Percy, Master P, thought should be done to help his son to heal. So Master P ended up taking his son to another medical establishment and later realized that his son was misdiagnosed, and this is just according to what I've read. His son was misdiagnosed with the injury, and that it could have turned out to be worse had it not been addressed. Because if you know anything about sports injuries or just injuries in general, if you don't set it right, if you don't address it right, it could get worse, and it could heal wrong, and that could end your career or whatever you wanted to do. It can keep you from walking straight. So, if you're trying to do more than that, you got to make sure that you do the right thing. So because of the misdiagnosis and or the the mishandling of the injury and addressing it, the latest news is that Percy Miller is supposed to be moving his son to another university. And one of the things he mentioned that spoke to me was, he said, because they don't have the best trainers, they don't have the proper staff to address this, and that could have hurt my son. And so that is why Percy said, Master P said that he is removing his son from Tennessee State University. And so that led me to think, you know what? I mean, maybe he's right, but if TSU had the money that they should have had, surely that $500 million or some of it could have gone to making better trained trainers, a better sports program. It could have gone to more infrastructure. I went to TSU a couple of years ago, and they have started doing more building on the campus. But there's always something that needs to be fixed and addressed. And I know recent news is that they don't have the money that they need to make things happen and make things flow. And that's why people are starting to address this $500 million absence in the matching funds that they did not get from the state of Tennessee. So instead of administrators trying to get people like Percy Miller, trying to placate people like Percy Miller, because we always want donors. You always want your alumni to give back. But why not, instead of trying to put certain people on the hook for some money, why not get the whitefish that is supposed to be on the hook for the money? Let them get you your money. Go after them for not getting you your money. That's what needs to happen. So that's why I think that when it comes to being appointed to the advisory board, or being in the know, or being able to have the ear of the president, Dr. Glover, you should make it your business for that to be your priority. Is not what you can do for Joe Biden, but what can Joe Biden and the Department of Education and the state of Tennessee do for Tennessee State University? Because we need our money, and we need it yesterday. Okay. And so that's what I would do. So Dr. Glover is the vice chair of Joe Biden's advisory board, HBCU advisory board. And the president of the advisory board is Dr. Tony Allen. He is the president of Delaware State University. And so if you know anybody who went to Delaware State or graduated from Delaware State, if you know Dr. Tony Allen, if you know Dr. Glover, I'm going to be reaching out to my alma mater's president. And if you are an alumnus of or alumni of Delaware State, reach out to your president, Dr. Tony Allen, and get these people on to let them know this is the agenda that we want you guys to be addressing with Joe Biden. Don't just be sitting up there kikiing and bumping gums and putting that on your resume. We want to know that you are there on our behalf. And that's what I would say to you. So I want to show you the list of, it's a revolving list or an evolving list. If you, I don't know why that was up there. Restream allows you 30 platforms. I'm not trying to necessarily advertise for Restream. So that was an accident, but that's okay too. If you want to follow me though, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Team TCB on Instagram and Twitter. And to find out more, I'll give you more information on how you can connect with me. But I have a written version of my journal, and on that written version, I give you my email information, because you can always email me. But I want to show you this list of the president's board of advisors and who's on it. And as I was saying, it is a evolving So they change people out apparently. But this latest list, it looks like the president of Hampton is on it. Howard University has representation on it. FAMU, Tougaloo College. Let me see, Southern University. Now they have some Harvard, somebody from Harvard's African American Studies department is on it. They got St. Augustine's. They've got Morgan State. So go and see if you know anybody from your favorite university, if they are on this board of advisors. Reach out to them and let them know you want them to follow up and do their own research to see if these states have been giving the matching funds to HBCUs like they're supposed to. That's what we want to know. We don't want y'all sitting up there. I don't know what the agenda is, but my question to Dr. Glover would be, what is the agenda of the HBCU advisory board, and how is that going to help Tennessee State, my alma mater, to get the $500 million that they did not get from the state of Tennessee? That's what's going to be my question to Dr. Glover. So if you believe in HBCUs and their importance and their value in educating African Americans first, and other people who want to show up, because again, we over there because they wanted separate but equal accommodations. But now all of a sudden they want to come over and say, oh, I'm the minority over here and I need to get a special set aside scholarship or something because they see the money. They coming over there for some money, but yet they can't give us our $500 million. Okay, it just makes no sense. It makes zero sense. So that's what we need to do. We need to find out where the money is and see how Joe Biden and the Department of Education can help us to get the money that we are due, and stop talking to us about our responsibility to vote for y'all when y'all are not giving us tangible reciprocity, because that's what we need. Okay, so to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. Thanks, and you have a super